Hi, everyone. We want to welcome you to our We Give Lightning Talk. My name is Akilah Wallace, and I am joined by my amazing co-conspirator in this movement work, Joy Webb. And we're going to be talking today about the new Great Migration. So let's get started. Well, first,
I'll go ahead and say who I am. Thank you so much, Akilah. It is so exciting to be in this movement building, working environment with you and other women and Black folks in particular as the new great migration opportunities in the South, which we're going to talk about in this lightning round today or lightning talk today. We have been honored with the privilege. Sometimes it's a little painful to be founders of giving circles. So we're going to share a little bit about that experience. We're going to share a little bit about why the South needs to be funded and how and what's going on. So we're excited to be here. Let's jump into it.
Well, first, I do want to just make sure that we mention that, I had the esteemed pleasure of being the founder of Heritage Giving Fund after serving 20 years as a career executive in relationship management and nonprofit leadership. And in 2017, after working in this philanthropy space, realizing that I didn't see many people that looked like myself, many women of color, and it's especially Black women showing up. And so that resulted in the co-founding of Heritage Giving Fund in 2017. And we're based here in Dallas, Texas. Joy, what about your giving circle?
Oh, that's pretty interesting. We should talk about that since this is a whole Giving Circle collective. My giving circle is called the Circle of Joy. We were established in 2007. We've been in this game for a little while now. And we were established because I had the esteemed pleasure to meet somebody else who was doing this thing called a giving circle. And because I didn't know what a giving circle was way back when, I was curious and I also was a little cocky. That's probably a little bit of my Leo in me, but I was introduced to the actual Giving Circle model from the Community Investment Network, which I might chat about a little later. But from there, we started the Giving Circle in Atlanta, Georgia. And so we have been established to give our time, talent, and treasure to nonprofits that focus on youth in Atlanta, particularly Black youth, and making that network stronger and better, and being more of a transformational approach as opposed to a transactional approach, which is typically what we have seen in the past from traditional philanthropy. So that's a little bit about the Circle of Joy. We'll talk a little bit about that more. I'm sure we'll jump into it, but I'll let Akilah get right back into the new Great Migration.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, as part of my history, I mean, I'm originally from Columbus, Ohio, and I migrated to the Dallas-Fort Worth region approximately 17 years ago. And I remember what it was like coming into not only an entirely new region of the country, but also just, having to learn and get an understanding of the culture and making new and great connections. And so I am a part of this new great migration, and my family ultimately was a part of the original migration that took place. And when a lot of Black folks and African Americans relocated from the South and went north and was seeking a variety of opportunities. But our talk today is as we look at the recent trends in the last about, probably about 8 years, 5 to 8 years, where we've seen a significant reversal of this migration. And many more Black and African American folks, many of them who are young professionals, are returning to the South, child. Now, Joy, you're from the South, so you have a different lived experience. But, as we look at the data, I mean, we see that, there are different factors that contributed to this shift. There, again, a shift in economic opportunities, lower cost of living, and ultimately, a sense of cultural and familial ties that drew many of us back to the South. And so, we're representing, regions that have been the recipients of a lot of these migrants and transplants and immigrants to these areas. Me being in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but primarily in Texas, a lot of folks have come to the DFW area, and as you see, a significant more have come to Houston, to my southern city. But then, like yourself, you're in Atlanta, another, key area, Charlotte. And so we see that like there's this boom of us who are relocating to the South, increasing the residential numbers, but ultimately this has created a significant opportunity for those of us in the nonprofit and philanthropy space to say, not only, are we wanting to engage, just the general community and our target communities in philanthropy and giving, but the ways in which we are being very intentional about how, not only if you're a new Giving Circle and you're the founder, and exploring ways to engage folks in your community, or those who've been more established, the ways that we're more intentional about recognizing that there are folks from a variety of diverse perspectives around an experience with money, how the Black experience has shown up for them based on where they were raised. And so I think this is really important, and also leans into how those of us who are leading and founding and or serving within Given Circles can really expand our perspectives around how we can have greater impact on not only those who are members of the Given Circle, but also the issues and opportunities that exist within the community. So Joy, why don't you talk to us about what that looks like?
Sure. So when we talk about impact and community impact in the South, we know that, yes, it's great things. It's a cheaper cost of living. There are opportunity to have some land, which might not be up north or other areas, west even. There is a greater opportunity for you to maybe even build your own community because of the land, the space, the financial stability type of opportunities there. People are starting families and growing families in the South. But the flip side of that is also there's a lot of disproportionately inadequate and inequality, racial gaps. That is really the South has oftentimes been known for the race riots and the racial disproportion of things that have happened in brown communities and Black communities in particularly. With sexual identity and gender being other things that are people are using biases against, and all of those things. That is clearly evident in the South when we look at how traditionally the South has been much more conservative in their thoughts and ways of changing, maybe a little slower, some might say. As a Southerner, I wouldn't say slow. But culturally, the South has also been very, very clear on the South has something to say, especially when it comes to Black folks. And so when we look at the impact and things that we do, especially in giving circles and collective giving, we give to and for and by our community. So you'll see that 61% of groups from the recent report called Be Abundant from the Dorothy Johnson Foundation and the Philanthropy Together group as a whole, and many, many, many of you all might have participated in these surveys for Giving Circle updates as to what's happening now with Giving Circles. 61% reported that they go and fund specifically toward their communities. And they focus on the inequalities and the racial groups that stand out in their communities, the people that are not listened to. I often say community knows what community needs. So a lot of times giving circles and collective giving groups actually listen to the community, as opposed to what traditional philanthropy does. Sometimes they make up their own rules. And so we have learned that this is what we're doing. And so when we see those numbers, we also see that, hey, we're able to fund the human services. We're able to fund health and education and human rights. Those are big things that are really important in our community. It's really important that we take up the space and show up in different ways that traditional philanthropy may not have. And in the South, that is particularly important because of the different rules that are coming out from this Supreme Court right now, and different legislation that is trying to be passed in the South. I know Texas, Akilah, you're really into the political game, and I call it a game because sometimes it's a little tricky. I say politics and politricks sometimes, but we have to be of service and stand in those gaps. And a lot of the collective giving and the giving circles are doing that by putting their time, their talent, their treasure into those spaces. We also see impact by networking. We have networks that actually have been founded in the South, like the Community Investment Network, which is a network of African American and donor of color giving circles. So they're particularly being impactful for their races and pouring back into to those communities. And then we have collaboratives and consortiums like Southern Black Girls and Women's Consortium, representing the shirt I see, the Hey Girl Hey,
Hey, girl.
where women have come together as a collective, and they have decided that, hey, Black women in particularly, 4 women actually came together and said, hey, we have funded philanthropy for many, many years, but we need to be intentional and strategic on how we do it. And we want to fund Black girls and women in the South because they are not getting funded like other organizations, other nonprofits in the South. And they deserve to be heard, and they deserve to be seen, and they will effectively change the world. So there are collectives, there are consortiums, there are networks that are doing work to bring together more people, because iron sharpens iron, and collectively we know that we'll do better and we'll go further together. And so I wanted to just show how community impact is basically, it just keeps growing and growing and growing, and it's a ripple effect. So when you look at circles like the Circle of Joy or the Heritage Fund, we are both a part of bigger networks, whether that be Southern Black Girls and Women's Consortium and or Community Investment Network, and or possibly even with other connections and relationships like Women of Color in Philanthropy and Fundraising. We have those types of networks that actually do serve as community impact in the South, because we're able to push out more and we're able to receive more to push out more to community. So I just wanted to give you a high level of, how this ripple effect is going in the South.
So appreciate that. So would love to hear, just briefly a little bit about the journey that the Circle of Joy, and how does, this great new migration impact you all?
Sure. So like I said, we started in like 2007. So I feel like that's many, many moons ago, but it's really not. Hey, waits for no one, right? So we started off, and I will be the first to say, I am not someone who was in philanthropy. I am a graphic designer by trade. And yeah, so I didn't know the rules. I didn't know the land. I didn't know how it worked. Like I said, I met someone who was part of a network of giving circles, which actually introduced me to this model of collective giving. And so we started off very green. We actually were trying to give away money, and people were not trying to accept it because they thought, what's the catch? What's the gotcha? And I know we're here for the We Give Summit right now, and everybody knows what giving circles are. But 15, 16, 17, 18 years ago, that wasn't the case. And so therefore, we actually had to start and basically share and showcase with people that we're not here to catch anything. So we led with our treasure, and then we followed with our time and talent, because we did not want to be only transactional. We want to be transformative too. So we work with and partner with our grantees because we want to be able to be of service to them and build relationships with them. And so we've been able to do some really exciting things over the last couple of years, and partner with some great organizations. Akilah, I would love to be able to hear a little bit more about what the journey of the Heritage Giving Fund was for you when you started this a few years ago.
Yes, thank you. No, so very much like you, Joy. I mean, it was based on, a hunger and desire to engage women, Black women in this amazing industry of philanthropy and philanthropic giving. And so in 2017, co-founded it with Dr. Halima Leek Francis and Dr. Francois Booker Drew, along with a host of other founding members. And what we've discovered was that, beyond just, our opportunity to pool our resources together and make contributions to nonprofit organizations that were led by Black women and that center Black women and girls, we, surely within that was able to, make our first couple of years of grant awards to organizations. But then, we were thrust into the global pandemic. And so in that window of time, we wanted to make sure that we were engaging the diversity of women and meeting them where they were at in their various economic statuses. So we had in-person convenings, and we specifically have tried to target, Black women and Black centered venues for our in-person opportunities, because also, again, we know there's folks who's not from the area and they want to be introduced to these amazing new businesses in community spaces, but also, having virtual talks where we were really leaning deeply into conversations around issues that directly impact Black women and girls, talking about fibroids, talking about, the relationship between the Black mother and daughter, as well as, ensuring that we were doing site visits, as you see, with organizations like the Wallace House, who's one of our grantee partners, and, who's doing amazing work providing housing for mothers, and young mothers and pregnant women needing housing, and providing an amazing baby boutique. So these are just some of the examples of the ways that, we try to diversify how we show up in the community, address the community needs, but also be mindful of the fact that we have people from a variety of cultural experiences and perspectives and lived experiences, based on, not everyone's a monolithic, but even that many of them are new to the Dallas-Fort Worth region, Texas as a whole, and just really wanted to help paint a broader understanding of the areas and communities that we live in, and that we serve. So yeah, so it's been a wonderful joy for me, and as well as, just being a transplant. It's been great for me to be able to make so many amazing connections and learn about the communities from which I have moved to.
That is amazing. And that is actually what giving circles are all about, right? We build our own communities, we learn about other communities. And so now we have, this opportunity to tell you it's your turn. It's your turn to shine. It's your turn to build communities. It's your turn to look at how you can do a collective giving movement or a giving circle, however you want to call it. Akilah, do you have like 2 or 3 tips that you would say, that you would share as we close out today?
Yeah, no, my main one is, just the importance of recognizing the value of the diverse geographic experiences and perspectives that can help impact causes in the South. I mean, coming from the Midwest, or those who've experienced, or know the stories from when there were race riots in Detroit, in Chicago, various, whether it's the Midwest or even in LA, in, the Eastern region of the country, just understanding that all of us have our different perspectives and the ways that issues have shown up, or our experiences. And so I think it's important for when, giving circle members and collective giving models, and even foundations, and everyone who's, thoroughly involved in how we're going to, disrupt and dismantle societal issues, that, we're taking into consideration that, some of us may have different experiences. Like I never really experienced in my life prior to moving to the South overt racism and oppression. And so having to recognize that for myself, and moving here, but then even realizing the history of, those I'm in community with, and how they may have had it closer to them, how that shows up differently, how we interact with one another, but also how we build power together. So that is my take for this. How about you, Joy?
I would say this, whether you grew here or you flew here in the the South has something to say. It has always rose up like a phoenix, and the people is what actually made it rise up. And a collective power is just so impactful. So I would recommend that if you haven't started a circle, you look at what that could look like, get your people together, like-minded people, come up with what you all would want to do, and just do it. I mean, a lot of times people get really bogged down with the bureaucracy of doing things, but sometimes you could just take the first step and make that happen, right? And that might be that you join a local circle in your area. That might be that you join a local community that is doing some really impactful things, and see how you can actually give your time, talent, and treasure. But I want you to know that, you know what, it is your turn. And we do have lots of opportunities in the South. And so it shouldn't be left undone because we just sit around and wait, right? So I think that as we look at the future, we know that we can be stronger together. We know that with the We Give Summit and other collective models that have been showcased in this actual series of things with Philanthropy Together, we can figure out where we fit in and where you stick and stay. So that would be my suggestions and my comments, and I would want you all to stay connected to us because we only talked a brief amount of time today. And I know Akilah has a lot of knowledge. She has lots and lots and lots of knowledge. I know a little something too, but
Yeah.
we put up our information about our circles where you can contact us individually and find us on the World Wide Web to share and stay connected and be in community with you. We appreciate your time today. And we look forward to hearing about how your circle has impacted the South, because this is a good place to start.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure. Thank you, Joy. Thank you to everyone. Look forward to connecting with you.
Yes, thank you so, so very much.